Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play cast brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magic Man, your host, and this is episode 228. Recording on July 20th, 2017. You're watching it on the 21st or later. We've got expansions, we've got mods, we've got reworkings, and we've got a first-look review that I'm sure Troy is just gonna love. So let's get to the host today. I've already mentioned him, Mr. Troy Blackburn, a.k.a. Noob Fridge. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, and here in just a couple of minutes, I get to give Troy's unpopular opinion of the week, so I guess we'll get to that.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Also on the line, Ms. Quinlan Bowers. How are you, Q?
I'm sleepy.
You don't have a bird friend this week, though.
She's in the other room. I hear her now, just going, chirp, and whistling and making random noises. So she might fly in here.
What's she going? What's the sound
Chirp.
she's... All right. On that, let's get started with the news. All right, so first up, big expansion, gets a release date. August 4th is the big day for this. One game that we talk about occasionally here, particularly when we're talking about better free-to-play models out there. Path of Exile is getting the huge Fall of Orieth expansion on the 4th. Of course, they did their whole pre-orders, and those are still available as well with some incredibly, exceptionally expensive packages. But this is a pretty big expansion here. They're calling it Super Big from Grinding Gear Games. It's going to go live on the PC on August 4th at 1 p.m. Pacific, so that's 4 here in the eastern United States where I'm at. What are you going to do? You're going to get Act 5, completely new. You're going to go into the new zones there, fight the rebellion and everything, but then also get Act 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, granted, those kind of repurpose zones from Acts 1 through 5, but there's tons of new challenges inside those zones, so 6 new acts, we'll put new in quotes here, Troy, quotes, new acts, 1 totally new, 5 revamps, new. Also gets the Pantheon system, which gives players all kinds of additional powers and upgrades. You just gotta bump off a few gods to get those, and I'm sure that's easy. Now, the Xbox launch is gonna be planned for later this year, so we're talking right now just about the PC. Troy, what are your initial thoughts here? First, I don't think we've had you on a show where we talked about Path of Exile and other ARPGs. Where do you stand? We know you hate card games, but where do you stand on ARPGs, Diablo 3, Path of Exile, those types of games? And then we'll break down the expansion itself.
Troy's unpopular opinion of the week. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. ARPGs aren't typically my cup of tea. I don't hate them the way I do CCGs. I play Marvel Heroes, a lot, so I can't say I hate all ARPGs like I do CCGs.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I was going to point out the inconsistency there.
Yeah, so I can't say I hate them all. They're not typically my cup of tea. I have found one that I enjoy. That being said, Path of Exile is a very popular game. I find it repetitive, boring, and a snooze fest, and I'm happy to hear you say, and Jason Winter in his article put new in parentheses, because that's exactly what they are. They're repurposed zones. Yes, there's going to be some new content and things going along in those. That's great. At the end of the day, it's still the old ARPG trope of recycling content. Yeah, it's newer than it was. Is it a step in the right direction? Absolutely. It's better than most ARPGs do, right? Like literally just go play the exact same thing. Path of Exile has been the same way for years, but a step in the right direction, but still short of where I think these games should head in the future.
So ironic, given how monotonous Marvel Heroes is to me. I'm like on this, I can't say you're wrong, because I kind of agree with you. I'm on the same wavelength as you. I'm not a huge ARPG fan, but there are a few that I like. Yeah. Diablo 3 obviously being one. I play quite a bit, off and on. Path of Exile being one that I dabble in as well. But Marvel Heroes just bores the shit out of me. And I'm not a huge comic book guy, never was, so maybe that's it.
Just part of it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a little part of it, but damn it, yeah, it just bores the shit out of me. Q, where do you stand, since we're kind of not generally fans, but we have a few favorites here?
I actually like ARPGs, which
I love Torchlight too. Sorry, I just forgot about that one.
Oh yeah, Torchlight. Torchlight is really good. Yeah, I actually enjoy ARPGs, and I'm not really opposed to them repurposing content that is kind of sitting there anyway. It's kind of like you know, to me, stuff that's going wasted otherwise because people are already through it or whatever. It's kind of like, you know, the Secret World of when they were like, we're going to put more quests back in the original zone, so you have a reason to go back there, right? I think, you know, as long as they make what you're doing and not exactly the same thing you were doing before, and it's just a really good reason to go back and visit areas you were in, I'm totally cool with that. And I'm just being attacked by a bird, so I told you she'd be in here.
I'll tell you what, generally the feedback from Path of Exile fans is overwhelmingly positive.
Overwhelmingly positive,
yeah,
yes.
I mean, it's not just, oh, this is cool, you know, and I'm with you, Q. I'm okay with reskin things. I mean, they do it in my favorite MMORPGs all the time. I've seen the same models 5 or 6 different times in Final Fantasy XIV. Hell, in the original Final Fantasy XIV, even the zones were copy-pasted all over the place. Still a BFF report of Mike B's that I go back and watch periodically, by the way.
Copy pasta?
The Copy Pasta Final Fantasy XIV BFF report. Fantastic video. I still watch it to this. I'm going to watch it after this cast now that I've said that. So I'm generally okay with it, too, because, you know, the game's, Troy, they're grind fests. It's a loot fest. You're gonna do the same thing. I like that Grinding Gear is doing something different with some of these zones, ramping up the difficulty, putting in the single playthrough, a complete story. Their quote, "We're removing the previous difficulty level system to make room for another 5 brand new acts, bringing the total to 10. In these 5 acts, you'll weave through both new and familiar locations and witness the drastic results of your past actions." So even in the lore-wise, it's kind of being, and granted, you know, maybe you might view it as a little bit of a cop-out. Oh, well, we'll just explain it in the lore why we're using a lot of the same stuff again. But I appreciate that they took the time to do that. Your past actions have changed things a little bit, and here's some of that new content to play through. And it's hard to argue with Path of Exile's overwhelming long-term now success in the free-to-play market, and still to this day is generally held up as one of the best, if not the best, free-to-play models, Troy.
Yeah, that's why I try not to go just, you know, really hard at Path of Exile, because it's really difficult to do that when it does have such an overwhelming positivity coming from the player base. And there's reasons for that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you guys are delusional that you love this game. I'm not saying that at all. So it's hard to go just all in, just criticizing this game too heavily. But, you know, my big problems with it mostly are repetitive attacks. Most of the builds you watch people play, they revolve around 1 or 2 attacks that don't even have varying attack animations. And then you've got the same old ARPG content. There again, yes, this is a step in the right direction. At least they're repurposing some zones to make them slightly different. Still the same old ARPG stuff, though. You still are doing recycled content at the end of the day.
We've often speculated here, Q, on exactly how Path of Exile remains financially solvent, given that everything that they do charge for is so optional, and their players will be the first to tell you if you don't want to, you really don't have to spend a cent. You can make life easier in some ways, but I've seen a number of surveys, including one that was on the actual Path of Exile forums, asking about how much have you spent playing Path of Exile, and when you start flipping through those answers, Q, wow. I mean, it is lots of players claiming that they've spent well over, and again, it may be anecdotal, somebody may be lying here and there, but if we put the general assumption out there that most people are going to be honest about how much they've spent, it looks like everybody that plays Path of Exile and happens to use their forums is a whale. We're seeing numbers over $1,000 for almost every post here, and you just can't argue with that type of success.
No, I think a long time ago, and we were actually talking about. No, is it any better?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. But it might have been Gary who said it a long time ago when we were talking about, I think, League of Legends. And it was basically, if you create a really good game that the players are invested in, and you just give them basically the fluff stuff to spend the money on, they will spend it. And I know from my personal experience, I've played free-to-play games, I've played subscriber games. And when I play free-to-play games, I sat and tallied up some of the ones I was playing around the same time I was playing subscriber games. The amount of money that I spent and it wasn't all at once, like on a regular basis of $15 a month, $15 a month, $15 a month. It was more like $10 here, $50 there, $100 there. But I spent basically equal to what I would have spent in a subscription because I really enjoyed playing the game that was presented to me. And therefore, I was more than happy to give them money for, fluffy things.
And that's what goes on here. I mean, it's predominantly cosmetics. Bag space, of course, enters into the equation there. But predominantly cosmetics and a wide variety of their packs every time they release an expansion of some type. They put up their huge bundles of stuff, and I've seen them, depending on the update, Troy, range anywhere from like $20 to thousands of dollars, and we usually bring them on the show and have some fun talking about how expensive those bundles can tend to be. But there are people buying them at the end of the day, and I think, Q, that's to your point. They've got a great game. They love investing their time in. Why not give them money? Because it's stuff you want and you want to support the development. Kudos. And this expansion, I think, is going to be one of their better updates, Troy. I like the idea of some new acts, even if some of it's repurposed. I like the revamp with the Pantheon system, that you can get now powers that you actually take directly from gods, but you got to go and beat those gods. Dozens of new items, new skills, new locations, new boss fights. They say the expansion will keep even the most diehard fans busy for many months to come. And then the Xbox One launch is right around the corner, so kudos to Grinding Gear Games. It looks like they're doing it again. I'm waiting, Q, for the press release that comes out from Grinding Gear Games that we post as news, that Path of Exile players jump on and say this is bullshit, this is the worst thing they've ever done, because it just hasn't happened yet. And it's kind of weird that it hasn't happened in the free-to-play world, Q.
Yeah, I mean, and gamers in general are kind of a contentious bunch. There's always somebody who hates whatever new or even old thing that a developer is doing, right? There's always somebody who hates it. But I mean, it's basically as long as the players are happy and the developer is, able to support the game and keep making stuff for the players, it's a good system. Just go with what you got.
I'm trying to find the actual post, Troy. I should have had the link. And if I was better at my job, I would have had the link ready to go. But I didn't anticipate actually discussing it. So here's discussion.
In the meantime, major kudos to Grinding Gear, right? Like they have the audacity to create a game for the players and trust that the players will take care of them financially, instead of spending like so many free-to-play games do when they come out nowadays. They feel like they spent more time on their monetization than they did their game, and they're more worried about their paywalls and their pay gates than the fun of their game. So kudos to them for that.
Yeah, and you don't often see people complaining that the cosmetic and things prices are too high. And in my estimation, they are. But I'm not going to argue, because it's the only thing you're selling. And so if I want to buy it, yeah, I'll go ahead and spend a couple extra bucks, knowing that I'm supporting the upcoming expansion. And they're not exactly stingy when it comes to content either. It's not I hate to compare it to Diablo 3, but that's the obvious comparison. I'm sorry, there's disappointment on my side that not only is Necro coming to the game, but you have to pay for it, but that there's no real content coming with that. Okay, so I got to pay for this, but there's no real content. Then you've got somebody like Grinding Gear Games and Path of Exile saying, 6 acts, new gods, all this. Hey, if you want to buy a cool glowy shirt, it's $40, but if you want it, you could go ahead and buy it. And that being the be-all, end-all. It's hard not to compare it to Diablo 3 and kind of put a little frowny face on your Diablo gaming.
But at the end of the day, Path of Exile is free. And the last time I heard a number like that size on a clothing item in a game, it was EVE Online with their $90 monocle.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, their shop's pretty. Armor effects, weapon effects, footprint effects. I mean, they got cosmetics out the ass. Footprint effects. Are you kidding me? You want colored footprints when you walk, Troy? $10, you got it, baby. You got it. We'll color your footprints. But hey, August 4th is the magic date. We want to hear from all of you Path of Exile fans out there. Are you pumped? Because everything I'm reading, with a few, obviously, nitpicky things that people, I'm concerned about this, I'm concerned about this. But for the most part, it's not just, hey, this is good stuff. It's just overwhelming positivity, and that's nice to see in the world of free-to-play gaming. Moving on here. Let's talk first about Icon's Combat Arena. And if you have no idea what that is, don't feel bad. Until 2 or 3 days ago, I don't think any of us did knew who that was. So Wave Dash Games, if you've heard that, that name, being a Smash Brothers fan, that might make sense, right, Q? These guys and gals, they did the whole Project M mod, right?
Yeah, and the whole point of that, is just to keep a 16-year-old game, like, but, yeah, now they're have worked on, they've announced a new Smash Brothers-like game that's going to be for PC, and it's, from what I've read on it, it's pretty much Smash Brothers, at least in the move sets and all of that kind of stuff. Like, it's pretty much Smash Brothers, but just doesn't look like it. So I guess Nintendo can't sue them.
Right. It's Smash Brothers reskinned, and it's planned to release on Steam later this fall. And gonna be free to play. So Troy, are you? I'm not a Smash Brothers guy, so if you are, I'll turn this over to you on what this means for you. I didn't even really get into like Brawlhalla or any of those PC games that were in this same type of vein.
Yeah, me neither. But I do have to say this: like if there's anybody out there who wants to hate on this, oh, they're just copying Smash Brothers. Let's be real. This is what Blizzard does for a living. Take other games, put your twist on them, and then put them out there. So, a competitor for Smash Brothers, that's a hugely popular game. Not for me, but dude, I've got friends who live and die about that game. Go to tournaments, all that stuff. So, if they do it right, and they're modders who are familiar with the community, right? Like, they know what those folks like and don't like.
Yep.
So they've got a lot of potential to make a game that those folks really, really want without all the restrictions that Nintendo loves to put on things, because they seem out of touch with their player base a lot.
And that was going to be my point, is that not only is somebody doing this, but somebody with street cred is doing this, right? Wave Dash, known in the Smash Brothers community, did the whole Project M mod, gave Melee the feel of Smash Brothers Melee inside Brawl. So they know the audience, to your point, and their audience, more importantly, knows them, and is generally positive. And again, all the comments on this, happy to have more Smash-like stuff. Let's go, let's go. Project M modders making their own game, can't wait. Of course, somebody said Mario Smash Brothers copy, that's lame.
Yeah, that's the same. Like, I did, but I mean, the art style's really nice. I think the art style is pretty decent. I don't know. Smash Brothers. It's honestly one of those things where I just think about, like it's something that I would prefer to play on a console with a controller, like that type of game, as opposed to PC. But you can get controllers for the PC, so
I would imagine that's a requirement. There is controller support.
I would hope so for this kind of game.
I would be stunned, Troy, if somebody with this much street cred totally whiffed on controller support. I would be shocked.
Go back to mods, bro. Go back to mods.
You know what? I don't want to cover the news anymore. I'm done. I'm retiring. There's nowhere to go from here. There's no way they whiff on that. But good luck to them. Look for that on Steam this fall. Now, this is not a mod, but it might as well be treated as such. Because, hey, NeoWiz been having a rough time
Oh,
lately.
this game.
Yeah, Bless Online. It's had a rough road for a little while, So, first it got closed in Russia and was sent back for some revisions, and then it was canceled by Area Games totally as a partnership for publication before it could even launch in Europe and North America. And then there were a lot of server mergers on the Korean servers. So we all kind of thought maybe Bless is done, except for maybe Korea staying around, which generally, from what I hear, by the way, from Bless players, I don't know if you guys hear the same, that the Korean servers are pretty good. They had all the content that the Russia servers didn't have yet. There's still some gripes, but it's playable. So we kind of thought maybe Bless was going away, but NeoWiz, not quite done with it yet. Instead, they've announced the Rebuild Project, which I think is a fantastic name, right? That's it.
Almost as good as Reborn, right?
Right.
I was about to say,
Realm
is it any worse than
Reborn.
Reborn?
It's Bless the Rebuild Project, and it's going to change a lot of the game's fundamentals via 3 key objectives. They're going to thoroughly re-examine the game's system and framework, potentially scrapping the current game structure and rebuilding it from scratch, and adding new content, which I think they should not worry about yet.
I think if they just added the content that was missing from the Russian version in the first place, that would be a good step.
Maybe that's what they mean, adding new content like the stuff we told you was going to be there but wasn't yet.
Adding content that already existed but wasn't put into your version.
So they're going to look at everything, combat, crafting, how mounts work, how pets work, the UI, and they're going to be releasing more details on this rebuild later, early next week. So we'll probably at least mention this on next week's cast after we get a full detailed rundown of the rebuild project. But if you were hopeful for Bless, then died away from being hopeful, then were hopeful again, then died away from being hopeful, maybe be hopeful again? Troy, I just think it's too little too late, right?
People up for that. Do not set those people up. Don't give them hope again. This game is a mess. It's been a mess, apparently, even before we knew it was a mess. If you're excited for this, still excited for this game, I'm sorry. Good luck in your future endeavors, is all I can tell you. This is a disaster. It's a walking disaster. It's a good thing it never came over here. Everybody, whenever one of these games gets imported, everybody acts like it's going to be the next greatest MMO in the history of ever, and then most of them settle into mediocrity anyway at the best. This is apparently just a huge disaster, and probably one you really don't want to get involved in, because it looks like it's only going to go downhill from here. Yes, they're rebuilding it and revamping it. Do we still care at this point? I guess that's the question we need to ask.
Q, do you still care?
I didn't really care in the first place, so... I mean, but I guess look at it this way. Speaking of Reborn, if this were another Final Fantasy game, would people care?
Oh, of course they would.
I mean,
of course they would.
That's a way bigger name.
Well, and that's the thing that rattles around in my head. It's like I can appreciate them doing this type of huge rework, right? I mean,
as a guy who's had to be there before,
as a guy that had to go through version 1 of 14 and play it for a while before it became bearable and then became something infinitely better. So there's that part of me that's like, this could work. If you're serious about doing it, it could work. The other part is, oh boy, if you're serious about doing this type of rework where you are looking at things like core systems, and potentially re-examining framework and scrapping the current game structure, if those items are on the table and you're serious, ask Squeenix. This costs $1, sucker. And I don't know if NeoWiz has the time and, more importantly, the money at this point to pull that off.
Do they have a Yoshi P? Because I think that's pretty important too.
Oh, that'll be the next press announce. Yoshi P leaving Square Enix and heading over to NeoWiz. I just don't know. I don't have the faith personally, Troy, in NeoWiz as a company to be able to pull this off, where when we heard what was going on with Final Fantasy XIV, we said Square might, like, none of us said it's going to be great, they're going to get, but we said they're a serious company with serious money, they seem serious about, they think they damaged their brand here, they could pull this off. I don't know if I'm even that hopeful with NeoWiz behind the helm there, saying they could pull this off. They very well might. The problem is, I think, personally, it's too little too late. I've been hearing about Bless since the first time I was at MMO Bomb, before I ever went to Game Breaker. And I still have touched it once. It's too little too late for me, Troy.
And there again, I'm just going to make a bold prediction. This never comes to fruition. This never sees the light of day in North America. This revamp, even if it does take place, is not going to save this game, at least over here. This is going nowhere. We're going to keep talking about it, apparently, for a long time, but this game goes nowhere. Can we just call this dead? This game's dead.
No, people love a train wreck, Q.
It's true.
All right, finish.
I've read about many a train wreck. People do enjoy them.
Yep. And in the comments on this piece in particular, by the way, it was a lot of, this game's dead to me. I'm not getting hopeful for this game anymore. And I think if you're NeoWiz, you really have to look at that from a global perspective and see, have you killed your player base without even releasing a product before you decide we need to sink the money in to save this? You're, like it or not, it's not a Final Fantasy IP. And I don't know. Risky business. We'll be eagerly waiting the roadmap on the 25th. And, of course, we'll have the news up on the site. So keep your eyes peeled. Before we head over to the weekly bombs, I did a first look, finally, for Smite Tactics. The official correct name now, of course, Hand of the Gods, Smite Tactics. Okay. And why did I wait so long for a first look? Well, I tell you about it in the first look video, and I think I've mentioned it on this cast. Hi-Rez has their very open development cycles from alpha through closed beta, and lots changes. And by the time I did the Paladins first look, like at the end of alpha, very beginning of closed beta, Troy, and within 3 patches,
yeah, not even the same game.
Not
anymore.
even remotely the same game anymore. So I learned my lesson, and I held back on Smite Tactics, Hand of the God Smite Tactics. I'm just going to call it Smite Tactics. Until open beta, which just started. And I'm glad I did, because I played in alpha, and as soon as I logged in open beta, your hero isn't even on the board anymore. Where in alpha, your hero moved around, and that was the target to kill. Now you kill a summoning stuff. So I'm glad I waited. But it's a card game, tactics-based game, sort of in the vein of something like Duelist, if you're familiar with that title, watching the free-to-play cast here, where you use cards to summon things onto the board, and then they have their own movement grid and attacks and abilities that you use to take out your opponent, ultimately killing their summoning stone. Follows every traditional card game mechanic and monetization that you'd expect. You can farm up in-game currency to buy packs, you can pay cash for packs, you can disenchant cards to craft cards that you really want. All of that stuff is there, daily quests, all that fun stuff. So to me, I'm going to put out there right off the bat, and maybe you guys agree, maybe you don't. Troy, I'll be interested to get your take on this, not liking CCGs. Q, I'll be really interested in your take on this, loving high-res as much as you do. To me, this felt like a dumbed-down Duelist. I appreciated how accessible it was and how quick you could figure it out and play it. The tutorial's 5 minutes long, 3 little segments, total of like 5 or 10 minutes, if that. And very easy to jump into and play, but it didn't have some of the depth that I've come to associate with tactics-based games. I feel like they slapped a tactics portion onto a very rudimentary and familiar Hearthstone formula, while the tactics portion isn't as deep as I would like. That's just kind of the impression that I got after playing it. I do enjoy it, but if I want something a little more tactical, I'm probably going to play Duelist. Let's go with you first, Q.
Okay, so on the me loving high-res thing, I like high-res as the people. They're good people.
Right.
Like, they're good people. The games, I mean, you know, there's like, I honestly, I like watching Smite. I don't play Smite, kind of deal. But Tactics, I haven't really jumped in and played it yet, but watching you play it, it did seem like it was just something that's, you know, just kind of simple, which, you know, definitely has its place. There's a lot of times I would rather sit down and play something super simple than something, that's going to take a lot of brain cell effort on my part.
Yeah, and we constantly praise Blizzard for ease and accessibility on projects. So I'm not saying that as a down part. I just felt like the tactics portion was kind of slapped on. It almost didn't need to be there. I felt like I was playing Hearthstone, except I had to move the character every turn after they were summoned, and it just kind of...
Well, the other thing to keep in mind, too, is that, like you were talking about, the game obviously changed quite a bit from alpha to... Yeah, it's probably going to do it again before... I mean, look, did Paladins leave beta? I can't even remember.
No, I think they're still in beta.
Paladins isn't even out of beta. I don't, there's just going to be a whole bunch of stuff that changes as it goes on. It might get a little more, detailed and actually require real tactics as opposed to, something that's simpler. But like I said, I don't really mind a simple game because there's sometimes, I sit down and play something for 5 minutes and not really have to expend any brain power. I can watch a TV show while doing it or something. That's fine by me. But it's not, I'm not in love with it, but I don't hate it. But I also know it's probably not where it's going to be when it finally launches.
If it ever launches, Paladin still being in beta. Troy, your take on it.
I own a Founders Pack for this game.
No, you don't.
I do.
You had to have been given that as a freebie. There's no way you paid for a card game.
No,
Founders
sir.
Pack.
I paid money for that.
Get the hell out of here! What? You're a walking oxymoron sometimes, and I just don't understand you.
Troy likes high res more than me.
Now. With said Founders Pack, I got a loading frame for Smite. I got a skin for Smite. I got lots of stuff for Smite that's exclusive to the Founders Pack.
And there you go.
So there you go. I have played the game. The last time I played, you still moved your leader around the board too. And I agree with you. If it was going to be more tactical depth, I probably would have, at least every once in a while jumped in for something different to do. But I'm a lot like you. It felt more like I was playing Hearthstone, except instead of interacting with the card to make the attack happen, I was interacting with the monster, and it was kind of the same thing. I play a couple of games that are sort of in that vein, Shardbound being the first one that comes to mind that I enjoy more than any of them. I'll play Shardbound just for a change of pace sometimes. Still some CCG in that, yes, absolutely. But there's enough tactics in that if I want to do something a little different to enjoy it. But yeah, I own a Founders Pack, but it was mostly, I wanted to check the game out, absolutely, because I do love how
for ulterior motives.
But yes, there were other reasons for that. It's because I own exclusive stuff in Smite, and all the time people ask me, where did you get that? How did you get that? I'm like, yeah, you don't know.
And don't get me wrong, if you haven't played this or anything, there are tactical elements. I'm not saying it's totally devoid of them. If you group things together, you're likely going to get nerfed or nuked by some particular card that takes out a range of things. There are characters with melee and range, and you can take advantage of that through clever movement on the board, keeping things in and out of danger as necessary. There are some tactics there. To me, at the end, I think I'm going to give this one a thumbs up. I do enjoy it. I thought it was fun. I liked its accessibility. I liked that it required almost no tutorial. If you've ever played a tactics game, and if you've ever played the slew of card games coming out in the last year and a half here or so here, you will be able to pick up Hand of the God Smite Tactics within minutes and play it pretty successfully and start your card collection. Personally, I would still give it a thumbs up. I'll dabble in it, but I kind of prefer a little more tactics than are available in the game currently, and so I still give the edge to Duelist with the intention of I'm going to keep watching Hand of the Gods to see how it evolves over beta. What's your final verdict, Q?
I mean, I'm going to actually have to jump in and play it for myself, but watching it, I think it looked fun, so...
So a tentative thumbs up, Troy?
Tentative, yeah.
It's a game that I've been watching for months now, and I will continue watching going forward. And at any point where it looks like it may evolve into something that, my very specific taste, I'm not shy to jump back in it and see what's up.
Troy's very specific tastes. So they
And
need
if
to...
not, he's still got all that stuff. from
And
Smite.
if not, I've got
So
all
they-
my Smite stuff. Everybody can
So
ask
for
me how I
Troy's
got that.
very specific taste, they got to take all the cards out. They got they got to not put in any ARPG aspects, but if you do, put them in a Marvel skin. You
Don't
have very
repeat any content.
right. Don't rehash or use any art more than once. Let's slide over to the weekly bombs. Troy, you're first, sir.
Our bombs. Dub bomb to Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns level 80 boosts.
You used yours, I take it.
Yes, I did. I did the afternoon. I believe we recorded last Thursday, and that afternoon I used mine. It's the best decision I've ever made in an MMO, just to go ahead and use that. I didn't realize you could just try characters out, and so I jumped on a couple and tried them at level 80, decided on my Ranger. That's the one I picked. That's the one I went with. I'm having a blast, an absolute blast. The level 80 zones are a little different than I expected, but in a good way. They remind me a bit of the version of Firefall that I enjoyed, which was go out in the world, just do events, get in groups with people, do these big, huge group events, and just, find your materials, grind out your events, do the big overarching meta, and just go out and have fun. And just do whatever you want to do. There's no quests. You just go out and do the events, and I'm having a great time.
Very cool. Cute.
I'm gonna give a mixed A-bomb to Secret Worlds. I've been Secret World Legends. I've been playing it since they went ahead and did the Head Start launch thing, and Justin and I have actually been playing it together, kind of taking our time, basically making sure that we run all the missions together, and also making sure we clear every zone of everything, lore, bosses, whatever, so we get the achievements for that stuff. The nice thing is, they made it, at least in this portion, made it so easy that we're having no trouble getting through all the content that I was really worried about having to do over again and knowing I would hate doing.
Nice.
So,
Incoming.
You've been dive bombed.
This is a daily event, so. But I still am not really on board with their cash shop setup and everything. I feel like they could have spent more to making us buy cosmetics instead. Now that we're to the 5th sprint, now we have to spend real money on that. We have to spend real money to have our guilds and all of this stuff. And I think there's just so much that's limited for a free-to-play game. I could totally see it if it were still buy-to-play or a pay-to-play game. That limitation, those social limitations, stop gold farming and all that jazz. But, or at least they're supposed to. But for this, I think we are subbed right now, and we got more value out of the subscriptions on the Secret World, for sure.
Yes.
Way more value. So I have mixed feelings about, what I'm spending every day doing right now.
Yeah, maybe they should, I don't know, take a look at Path of Exile.
You know what they need?
What's that?
And I would totally spend bunches of money on this. They have a kind of a housing system, right? The museum.
Yeah.
But they have these kind of darkened areas, in the faction zones in Seoul, in London, and New York. Give us apartments.
I'm sure you will at some point.
Let us spend money on furniture and decorations and all this stuff so I could have a really slick apartment in Seoul. I would kill for an apartment in Seoul.
You're such a dragon.
I'm going to give a dub bomb to all the Tenno out there. Due to all the hype and Tenno going to TennoCon, the attendance capped out. It was the record for TennoCon and reached over $150,000 in total for the donation that Warframe and Digital Extremes ended up making to the Covenant House Toronto. So huge boost there. So dub bomb to all the Tenno out there that helped. From the viewers, Hellsworth says, dub bomb to Secret World Legends. I'm 50 and I'm getting ready to run Elites. The last train from Cairo went straight to my top 5 best quests and MMOs I ever played. Good quest. Dub Bomb to Warframe. Keep at it, Digital Extremes. Warframe is definitely one of the high standards free-to-play games out there, and these reveals and leaps are exactly why. An A-Bomb to Riot. Come on, for a couple years at the start, everyone would have thought that League of Legends would get sued by Blizzard and end up crashing and burning, and now this news, it's just too ironic not to mention. And we agree with you and made that clear last episode, I think. Go ahead, Troy.
Nasagra, one big word of warning to Troy. Heart of Thorns was designed for veterans, so if you aren't used to the combat system, you're going to die often. I highly suggest leveling a character normally first. There absolutely was a learning curve there going straight to 80. It's not too bad, though. They give you some pretty decent gear to get you started. And so, yeah, it did take some adjustment. I did die a few times, but it didn't take long to get in the groove and get going.
Go for it, Q.
All right, so John is addressing this first part to Mike, saying you answered your own question about why you deleted the character, but since you didn't catch it, if you delete all the characters, you can start another server and avoid transfer fees.
That's why, Troy. That's why I deleted my Guild Wars character. Because if you cleared every character, you could just roll new on another server without having to pay for a transfer. Thank you, John. I couldn't remember the reason why. Go ahead, Q.
This might have changed over the years, but this used to be the reality and the norm if you didn't have a lot invested in your current tune or tunes and wanted to join friends on other servers for free.
That's exactly why, John. You are dead on, and as soon as I read your comment, I remembered that you are absolutely fact-based in that analysis.
So I'm going to need some clarification on the what this is about, but to Jason, he says this is a prime example of why not to say I have X number of hours playing X game as an affirmation of something being true, false, etc.
I don't remember what's being addressed.
Yeah, I was saying that earlier, and I couldn't remember what it was that's in reference to.
I'm going to have to go back and watch last week's episode. Joshua Knight, Dub Bomb to RuneScape coming to iOS and Android. This should have happened years ago. Lots of people saying that. It might actually be worth playing an MMORPG on iOS now. A-bomb at Troy for suggesting you can't be an MMORPG player if you have never played RuneScape. I would love to hear your reasoning behind this. While its impact on the genre cannot be denied, it is not the best nor the earliest MMORPG example. It would be like me saying that only players who have played the original EverQuest can call themselves MMORPG fans. And a question for the panel, do you think that the Jagex job posting was about the decision to bring RuneScape to mobile devices? So Troy, first off, I totally agree with Joshua here, and I said as much on last week's show, since I had never played RuneScape. Defend yourself, sir, because Joshua's calling you out.
Well, you guys love taking stuff super literal, don't you? Did I hit a little close to home, boys? Well, I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm referring to when I say stuff like that is myself. Like, as a person who talks about MMORPGs, I need to, like, if I haven't played stuff like that, I mean, how can I talk about, at least from my experience, other MMORPGs, if I haven't experienced as many of them as I could possibly take in. So, I mean, if you want to take it that way, take it that way. Sorry, I hurt your little feelings.
All right, way to walk that backwards. Question for the panel. Do you think the Jagex job posting was about the decision to bring RuneScape to mobile devices? I don't think so. I think the Jagex job posting is in relationship to what Jagex wants to do with their new partnership with Spatial OS, and whatever they're developing as a new MMORPG under that banner. That's just my take on it. Do you guys agree or feel differently?
No, I think that pretty much nails it.
All right, Q, next one. Or wait, is it? I'm sorry, it's Troy's turn. Right?
No, Troy. Oh, yeah.
Troy, you're up.
Clay Ross, please don't bring up politics. Thanks, guys. People are on all sides. We heard all kinds of feelings last week.
Yeah, we got accused of being a CNN affiliate.
I'm not being paid enough if that's the case.
Yeah. So, Q, last week we were talking about Riot Games and Moonton going to court over copyright infringement for League of Legends related stuff, and Moonton released a statement that basically did not address any of the claims Riot made in the lawsuit, but instead cast aspersions and reserved right to sue media outlets that were reporting the news of the lawsuit or erroneously misrepresenting things. And so I think I made an offhanded comment of, they took this from the Trump playbook or stuff. All right.
And then everybody laughed.
All right, fair point, Clay. You brought politics into it. In my head, that really wasn't a political thing. It was more of I don't care if you're for Trump or against him. To me, at least, you can't really say he doesn't do that on a lot of things. So I thought it was more offhanded and funny than political. But fair point, Clay. We'll leave the politics out because that's something that people are on all sides of. And on the gaming side of things that we should be talking about, all of us always agree. So you're right. Well,
fantastic, sir. Fantastic.
Fair point, Clay. Well taken. I'll leave jokes out of it. Go ahead, Q.
Linkstari, too bad for Riot Games. The Chinese government does not recognize international patent and trademark law. That court case will go nowhere.
And we would probably agree with you if Tencent wasn't the owner of Riot, right?
And Tencent works for the Chinese government.
Right. Yeah, that's why we think it might have some legs. Stuff, so. King Emery, I used to play Warframe on the PlayStation 4. To be honest, I don't know if I want to download it again. So, King, if you're just saying you deleted it one time and you're gonna you don't know if you want to download it again because it is a big file, fine. If you're saying you already have it, you might be referring to an update coming to consoles. When Warframe gets its next update on consoles, it will. You don't have to delete it, so don't delete your version, but when you go, it's going to perform a reinstall. And actually, this is a good thing for you, King. If you deleted it a while ago and you're just like, ah, shit, it's almost a 50 gig download, I don't want to do that again, it's getting cut like in half. They're getting rid of a ton of things in the files that aren't used anymore, so the download won't be as bad as you remember it. For those of you that are playing Warframe on consoles, know that you do not have to delete it on the Xbox One or PlayStation 4, but when your next update comes with the new content, there will be a reinstall type process that may take some time. Finish it up.
If I remember from writing that, you don't have to delete it on your PC either.
No, no.
Period. No. Don't delete it.
Yeah, just let it do its thing, but it may take a while. Go ahead, Troy, finish this up.
L2GG. I like Warframe, but I feel they're really lagging behind their competition in the in-game story/loot grind content department.
Interesting. Question of the week last week, with nothing bigger or huge on the horizon for a bit, what are you currently looking forward to in the free-to-play world? Curse says, the only MMO games I'm truly looking forward to at the moment are Kingdom Under Fire 2. I'm looking forward to that too. We should have closed beta on the PC in the West here very late this year, with PlayStation 4 early in 2018, so that one might not be too far away. That's confirmed, but of course they could change that. Conqueror's Blade, formerly War Rage. Other upcoming titles are either too meh to be excited about, like Black Squad, too uncertain or far away, Enlisted and Total War Arena, or come in the form of major updates rather than standalone games. The Fleet in War Thunder, the open map in Warframe. All good things to be looking forward to, though. Go ahead, Troy.
Ellsworth, question of the week. Things I'm expecting to come out: Path of Exile, Fall of Oriath in August, Fortnite around the same time, Dauntless and Warframe's Plains of Eidolon towards the end of the year.
I totally spaced on Fortnite and Dauntless, both games I'm looking forward to, particularly Fortnite. Dauntless I'm hopeful for, but from what I've seen, I'm like tempering my hopes, Troy. It looks, very Monster Hunter-ish, Monster Hunter MMORPG, but I don't know if it's going to have the depth that I want.
I wish I could talk more about that.
I wish I could too. I'm just going to leave it at that. I think we're still fine, right? I didn't say anything untowards, did I?
I don't think so.
No,
as long as we leave it right where it's at.
Yeah, we're going to leave that one right there. Go ahead, Q.
Chris Baker, no official release date yet, but I'm still pretty hyped for Moonlight Blade.
Yeah, a lot of people there, too. Another one that I kind of has escaped my radar at this point. Excel Kobayashi, question of the week. Looking forward to Path of Exile, Fall of Oriath. August 4th. All of you that are looking forward to it, just 2 weeks away. Twilight Spirits, Maple Story 2, Moonlight Blade, and maybe Soul Worker and Kingdom Under Fire 2. Waiting for the extra classes in Critica. Also Tooth and Tail and a bunch of Switch games, but those aren't MMOs. Go ahead, Troy.
Two Claw, I'm still looking forward to Lineage Eternal,
Yes.
Lost Ark, and hoping Dragon's Dogma Online coming to Western Shores.
And finish it off, Q.
It's me, James. Looking forward to the return of Hero Wars.
Yeah, that's another one. I don't know if I'd count that as a release. It released and then went away. So, question of the week. Jason wrote an interesting article. I don't know if either of you read it on MMO Bomb about the highest rated game, free-to-play game on Steam. Steam says that the best, i.e. the highest rated, free-to-play game is Iron Snout. And they're not wrong, and this isn't based on, like, 2 reviews or anything like that. The highest rated free-to-play game on Steam is a game where a pig fights off wolves, mugging them for weapons, and using the weapons against the next wave of predators. Troy, you're just seeing this for the first time, I take it?
Yes, and I'm probably going to play this tonight.
And this is overwhelmingly positive, overall based on just under 11,000 reviews, recently just under 500 reviews. It is the top-ranked free-to-play game on Steam right now. So, my question to you is, what's your top-rated free-to-play title and why? Put it in the comments below. Make sure you give us your weekly bombs, da bomb for something good, a bomb for something bad, or a question for the panel in the comments below. Until next week, Q, where can everybody find you?
Hanging out on the Twitters at Quinlan.
Troy?
Twitch.tv/NoobFridge. You guys have been really awesome to me the past few weeks. Jumping in, saying hello, dropping follows. I appreciate it. I'm going to be on vacation next week, but when I get back, we're going to hit it hard. Twitch.tv/NoobFridge.
One of you's got a lot of static in your line, and it just appeared, so I'm glad we got the show over with. I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me personally on Twitter at MagicMan1, MAGICKMANN1. While you're there, of course, follow at MMOBomb for all the tweets, giveaways, news, videos, and more coming right from us to your Twitter feed. Until next week, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.